Excellent. So we're going to call the meeting to order at 6:07. Start with any adjustments to the agenda. Okay. No adjustments. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes for Monday, March 10th, the regular meeting, and Monday, March 24th, a special meeting.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Excellent. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Excellent, so moved. Great, we'll move on to public comment. We do also have another public comment at the end.
Am I the public?
You're the public. We do also have public comment at the end if you,
I can hold it in.
no, you go ahead and you're welcome to comment now or whatever.
No, I'm here to watch what's going on. I hear what's going on legislatively.
Excellent. Good. Okay, well, hearing no public comment, we'll move on to board comment. All right, no board comment. Let's move on to the reports to the board. Superintendent's report.
So I've been trying to keep you as updated as possible as board members in regards to what's been happening both in the legislature, specifically around proposals of changing governance and finance for education. We'll discuss that more, I think, specifically under 8.2 legislative updates. But what I would say is that things are just changing incredibly, very quickly in the education field right now. I mean, I would say we're back to a place where the word is now today. At the end of last week, I had heard that the Senate was no longer going to consider around trying to draw maps this session, which does include supervisory unions and supervisory districts. One of the things I just wanted to mention in my board report is that those maps in regards to Senate still require forced mergers within them in regards to like operating districts. So even when you saw that map that spoke to Waco Valley Supervisory Union, it would still provide for choice, but it was going to be a required forced merger of any of the districts that fell within that supervisory union that operated K through 6. So that would be forced merger of Stockbridge, Rochester, Sharon, Thetford. I think that was it in regards to that. But that was an example, and it had nothing to do with geographical nature, right? It was not operating district. And so that's concerning to me. I'm testifying in Senate tomorrow, essentially with an emphasis on we need to continue with the supervisory union structure. There's no evidence that backs that, the supervisory district structure is more efficient than the supervisory union structure. Actually, the data opposes that.
And what's the key difference?
So supervisory district means, well, it would mean a forced merger of all the boards within the supervisory union. That's the way to think about it.
I think it creates one
district.
Okay.
So the governor's proposal was 5 supervisory districts.
Okay.
Those are large geographical unified district boards. One board over that entire area. For example, from here up to Craftsbury. That's what that is. So the House end, which is what I was trying to testify in House end about the importance of the supervisory union structure, would provide possible further efficiency by having less need for supervisory districts or unions, but still allow for engagement like we have here tonight around a district board that serves 2 communities that can engage with their communities around need. Supervisory unions provide for that. So my testimony again will emphasize the importance of supervisory unions, also going to emphasize the importance of we need to get this right. I think sustainability is important, but rushing to a solution, we haven't proved in the state we do that well. in education, you Act 46, Act 127, which contributed to part of what this, perceived crisis was in regards to education spending and increased tax rates.
Right, so they created these things, and then, but we don't hear any feedback from them about what worked, what didn't work. Have they even evaluated?
The Act
it at all?
46 study wasn't conducted.
Right.
The legislature had requested. So, what I would say is, and we'll get into this more under the legislative update as well, is that, that I haven't seen any type of plan that actually speaks to in regards to the governor's plan around creating, more equity for students, right? Like, want to result in savings. I mean, I think you can actually speak to the contrary around those things. And part of my testimony is going to attempt to do that tomorrow, as well as emphasize, I do think there's some things they could put into place around accountability measures that could result in better outcomes for kids and efficiency. And so I'll testify on that tomorrow. I'm a little more direct in regards to some of those things than I even was with House Ed, to try to really emphasize that there's still an opportunity to try to get this right, and rushing to the solution is probably not the way to go. The other thing I just wanted to mention though today, because it's not a legislative update, is that a bunch of you received an email from me. We got a memo from the secretary at like 5:09 Friday after evening, which I found in my email box yesterday when I was working on my testimony, around certification and being in compliance with Title VI. And there's been some states that have been putting out statewide letters in regards to certification around Title VI, or pushing back in regards to the certification process, because frankly, we've always been in compliance with Title VI. We're doing that now. But there's concerns in regards to how that could play out possibly around work that we do around equity, inclusion, diversity, which we're continuing to do, and frankly, you can do that work and be in compliance with Title VI. So I actually just had an email saying that the agency is going to issue a joint, like a letter, statewide letter to the feds without requiring each individual LEA to certify our compliance with Title VI. If we were going to be required to certify our compliance with Title VI, I was going to request the SU board meet to discuss this on Thursday. I think we're going to still need to discuss all this as a board, but this bought us more time before we need to have that conversation. Not feel like it's a rush. So I want to update the board on what this all means. What I would tell you is we're in compliance with Title VI. There's nothing in regards to being in compliance with Title VI that will stop us from doing the work we're currently doing. In regards to what the federal government was indicating though was, if you can't certify as a state you're in compliance with Title VI, you're going to use federal funding. And not just title federal funding, all the funding that also supports special education. And so that's a serious thing. So we're going to need to continue to discuss this at the whole board level. I'll ask our legal team to join us at our next full board meeting to give the SU board an update in regards to all this, but it looks like no, we won't need the special meeting Thursday. Because, I mean, the timeline that the agency had provided us is that we had to certify this by Thursday.
Right.
They have now said we don't need any certification. We're going to address this as defense directly as a state. Both the state's attorney general and the agency letter. So that's good, because that doesn't mean that the federal government won't say that at some point we have to certify this at the district level, but I want to make sure everyone understands that. And what the conditions are within Title VI at the board level, and frankly, that should be a board action in regards to certifying that anyways. So just know, I think this conversation will come back around, but it's not with the urgency that was initially indicated.
You know, I was concerned that AOE and the governor's officers was winging it on their own, and it gives me great deal more of confidence that we've got our state attorney general that is now teaming, and I have great faith in our attorney general that will make sure that we're not going down this crazy path. In New York, the attorney general showed us a way of doing it. It's not the only way, but if we need to be together at the state level and out here is our educational providers. So it sounds like we're, as a state, moving in, it's tricky, but moving in the right direction. So
I thought that was a good step forward today.
Um,
To see that.
yeah,
Okay.
Any other questions folks may have?
about your report,
Yeah.
not a question. I just got, we talked about the certification letter, but your RSU's attention, and you had your paragraph about going after chronic absenteeism. And that, to me, is a huge, it's a very important, critical issue that we need to do everything possible that we can. And your paragraph showing how we're dealing with that with private sector teamwork at all levels within the SU and our schools to go after that. And so I commend you for doing that, and I hope that'll have results in lowering that percentage. Kids can't learn if they're not in school.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. I think it's one of these things that we need to start to shift the conversation to on in regards to, again, my concern about larger, what I would consider for Vermont major districts. And I don't see how that supports the work that we're trying to do across the state right now with addressing crime, absenteeism.
Other factions also.
Yeah, I mean, it's less personalized and individualized. And so that's a concern for me. I mean, yeah, along with our current students, and I think some of the data shows for some of our schools, not so much Rochester High School, but some of the data that I've been tracking around high schools that closed during Act 46, and some students just being lost due to that closure. I didn't see that quite as much in your district, but I have seen it in some others across the state. So trying to get that data, because I'm really concerned, because, you know, the emphasis around that legislation is certainly, and they've been very transparent with moving to more centralized and regionalized high schools. They don't say closure of elementary schools, but certainly some of the numbers that they use, I mean, it would close every elementary school in RSU.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any further questions or comments for the superintendent? Yes.
I think in the past, and going way back, there's a correlation between parental involvement and student performance. And if you close, the further away you make schools from the parents, from where they live, you're gonna have less involvement. I think that's just the case. And I think we have, I mean, our parents are involved, but it's more difficult for them to be involved in small things when they're high school far away, and if you do the same thing to elementary, it can be devastating.
Very good point.
Well, that's where I think it speaks contrary to creating language. Right? If a high school student has to be at the bus 90 minutes after school, practice, even if you run a late bus, let's say, they're going to be less apt, right, than the student that lives 15 minutes away.
Can it even, I mean, I don't think that you'd want to look at it from a legal standpoint, that making for rural students, making them travel farther than students who are in more, in a less rural area is inequitable. I mean, has anyone raised that point?
We're raising it every chance we get, you know, as a alliance.
I mean, as a legal standpoint.
Can I make a comment or make an observation before we move on to the next relating to this? Or am I stepping on it?
No, sorry, we really hold it to public comment at all comment time, but you're welcome to circle back to it.
I'll be waiting.
Okay, absolutely. All right, we'll move on to the principal report.
Yeah, so you have my report in front of you. I would say some highlights are, one, we had about 12, I think it was right at 12 students from our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders participate in our SU-wide art and soul concert.
Oh, very nice.
2 weeks ago, which was a great opportunity for them. So how it works is you like go over in the morning and you get to rehearse together, and the elementary kids get to watch the high school kids practice first. And then you add in different age groups so you can kind of see what that looks like at a middle school and high school level, both chorus-wise and instrumental-wise. And then they also get to work in groups to make their own t-shirts for the performance. So it was a great experience. Our performing arts teachers, from visual arts to our instrumental lesson teachers to our music teacher, really worked hard to put that all together. It's a pretty big commitment. And that was SU-wide effort. So that was great to see. And I think the kids would tell you the exciting thing is we just finished our book fair, our partnership with Bear Comic Books. And each PTO purchased a book for every student, which is great. And then in other, my favorite was probably our 4th and 6th graders led their own.
Oh, that's great.
That was great to see and listen in. But I'll take any questions.
Is there any questions or comments for principal? All right, thank you.
We are.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to the business manager, Tara.
Good evening, everyone. You have my report. It outlines what's happening in the business office during the month of April. This is a busy time of year for us because we're just closing out Q3, and all of our state and federal reports are due by April 15th for all of the Beamers, Visters, special education, extraordinary costs. So all of those are due. So we're working on them, plus gearing up for your and Granville Hancock's annual meetings. And then if there's any questions.
Great. Any questions for Tara on her business manager's report?
Just keep marching along. Thank you.
Excellent. We'll move on to the policy committee update.
So we didn't meet this past month because we were engaged in the community conversation with Bethel with some of our local representatives on the proposed education legislation. So we'll meet this coming month at 5, and we have about 8 policies right now that are currently in revision or newly introduced. I expect at least half of those to hopefully get out of committee this month. And then you'll start seeing some more policies coming down the document.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, 6.5, Community Engagement Task Force.
So
Just, Pat, do you want to speak or do you want me?
I'll start actually.
Yeah, okay.
So community engagement has been meeting. Why I wanted to connect on this before I had Granville Hancock is that one of the members that we lost was our board rep from the Rochester side. And so we do have an election coming up. So that's possibly a way that we could try to address that. I do know that the task force in general has been concerned about only having a rep from the board that's from the Stockbridge side. And so I don't know if you or Robert, even if you wanted to fill in for a couple meetings until we got a rep, would be willing to do that or not. But I just know that I've had some concern come to me from Rochester constituents feeling like that would just be an important thing for business.
was kind of wondering what the feeling was, because the task force is so far along in what they're doing. If bringing somebody up to speed is going to be helpful or more distracting. But that's good to know that there is interest.
There is interest, yeah.
So, it's twice a month.
Right, our next meeting is actually, May 1st because of vacation. So there's like a homework assignment, but a lot of it is things that are about to go in the mail for surveys anyways. Patrick can provide more of an update. So there's really only maybe like 4 or 5 more meetings. So the plan is.
It's in person only.
You could call it if you
You could call, I think we kind of take attendance around that.
He's not Rochester.
Oh,
That's just me and you. So, I was gonna say, May 1st is not, May 1st is not a option for me, to do. I mean, I can step in at another time, I think, but,
The plan, and Suzette does a good job, we planned on May 1st and then, the next May meeting to meet for 2 hours, but everything else is only an hour and a half. So it goes 5 to 7 on May 1st.
May 1st and May 15th probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me suggest, volunteer Robert, for May 1st, you're gonna be pulling hands on deck getting ready for the annual meeting. And I think that's the place that you need to be. And then,
Oh, see, buddy Bill.
and then after that, we'll have some new board members and energy and enthusiasm, and very possibly, that enthusiasm will.
Yeah, they're gonna be
extend to the
digging in.
thing.
I think that they created the survey, right? So the next steps are gonna be collecting the surveys and starting to engage in the data and then put together like the report on the data.
Right.
So I don't think it's like a bad time. I don't think the timing is bad. I think it's actually a pretty natural time.
Yeah, okay.
But there's still some important work to be done.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so.
okay. I don't have much choice, so it's 5 to 7, did you say?
May 1st
May 1st
here,
Stockbridge.
or we can create an option for you to call in, Robert.
That's-
You just let me know.
I guess I volunteered.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that
okay.
day
I
I
understand.
booked, my daughter is doing a shadow at WCAX.
Oh, wow.
And the weather team,
That's
and Gary
exciting.
Sadowski's gonna come in to meet her, even though he's retired, so, I absolutely want to, need to be robust with that. Okay, thank you, Robert, very much for
I'll be back.
volunteering.
Sure. And my apologies for being late. I had it in my phone, it was 6:30. I was wrong.
It's okay, we're here now. Okay,
We do have 4 minutes.
luckily enough, JC hopped on, which was very nice. She was possibly unable to come tonight, so we were getting a little nervous there, but that's okay. Okay, great. Well, thank you. If there's, actually, is there any more information that needs to be reported from the community task force, Patrick?
Hey, yeah, I mean, not a whole lot. I think that the task force has done a really good job of formulating questions and trying to keep it as simple and painless as possible. Not painful, painless as possible. No, I think this last meeting, I think we really made a lot of headway, and I think we're feeling pretty comfortable with the surveys so far. We had a little bit more work to do on what, Lindy, was it the
Family one.
the family one? Yeah. Yep. So, but no, I think it's going well.
The community survey, like the link in the QR code is going out via postcard. Be like mailed out at the beginning of next week, probably at the latest. Got the turn now, so we're just waiting for it to be done. And then we'll put copies in the town clerk's office. We'll put something on Front Porch Forum so folks know with the, and we'll work with the town clerks if there's other forms of ways to get that out there. And the idea that is that that survey will close May 2nd. So we'll have most of the data from the community back on May 1st. And then the family survey will go out shortly after. They asked some similar questions, but some of the questions to families are, a little more specific to their experience.
Well, that's wonderful. That format sounds really great and well thought out.
Do libraries, libraries for getting surveys out?
Town clerk's office is what we had talked about. We haven't talked about the library.
The librarians are generally very out and making people aware and handing things out.
No, that's a good idea.
Yeah, Stockbridge Library is.
Yeah, they're just-
questionable hours, so, but Rochester makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Great.
Excellent, well, thank you very much. All right, well, then we move on to the best part of our meeting, which is the celebration of learning.
Yes, so I'm gonna introduce Miss Jess. Jess is our preschool teacher, here to kick off the week of the young child. Is that what it's called? I said that right? Yeah. So she's here in Stockbridge. Mr. Burley was supposed to be here, but had a family illness, so he left her solo, but she's got this. This is the best part of the evening, I agree. I don't know where to go, because this is like a lot of technology. Should I just like stay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Alright. So I just want to talk to you guys about our bookmaking project that we've been doing in pre-K. So this is, so what we're doing is every afternoon, like right near the end of the day, we are working on making books. So I brought a sample of a book. There's my boy sitting in the hot seat reading it. So at the end of making the books, we have the option to sit in the hot seat. And the first, like when we first started doing hot seat, they were kind of like checking the seat to see if it was hot. But now they understand like that's the hot seat because you're, in it. So it's important because we are, we read a ton of books in pre-K. We talk about all the different aspects of books, but now we are the authors and illustrators. So we are realizing that we're actually those people that can make these. So this is also a time when even though we do, like everybody's working at a different level, we're all, we're thinking about what makes a story, how to do a beginning, middle, and an end. Everybody is like working at their own level. So you might see some books that have like words, illustrations, a combination. This one you can read that it is a book about mom and dad, but there are ones that are just, they have fewer letters or they might be written a little differently. I'll pass this around, but this is a book. So there's dad, there's mom, there's a rainbow, there's Zeke, there's the end. So there's a lot of that. You can go to another. So you can't really like read that from where you are, but these are some of the VEL standards that we are following. So they're not really learning standards for both reading and writing. So some of the things we're learning are about concepts of print. We are learning how to express ourselves through writing. We are learning how to how we can be authors and illustrators. We are also doing some of that, just getting up in front of the group, listening to each other and sharing our own work. And then show you another one. So this is another example of a book. So one of the things, so sometimes when kids are writing in the classroom, we, we'll tell them what to be doing. We'll tell them how to spell something, help them write their names, those kinds of things. So we do want them to do that the right way. But in this project, it's really like you're on your own. So you can see that book is called Sunny Day. So he sounded that out himself. If you look right on the third one, there's a lot of O's. That's because Ernie was out in the rain and he was going, oh! So that's how you spell that. And then show me another one. We also are becoming more engaged with some of the books that we're reading in the classroom. So when we're looking at pictures, when we're doing read aloud, we talk about why the author or the illustrator made certain choices in their work, and also why they chose some of the words they did. But in this book, this fish is looking really suspiciously because he's looking for his hat, right? So I was pointing out to my friends about these eyes, these like narrow eyes, because this is a lot of the feeling stuff that we do. I don't know if you can see it, but everybody practiced. All of those kids are doing squinty suspicious eyes, just like this kid. So that kind of translates from what we talk about in the room into their work and then into their reading when they're looking at books on their own or when like we're reading together. I think, is that it? Okay, yeah. So that is just one of the aspects of literacy that we are doing in our classroom. Any questions for Ms. Chase?
I had one,
Yeah.
what's the mood when the kids come into your classroom in the morning? I mean, do they see books as something that they want to do? They want to go and you say, next hour we got to start the class going and we'll read later or something? How excited are they about books and reading and just exploring with the printed page? Is it very all over the place? Or are you seeing a change that it's getting more and more as a positive thing that books are their friends? Or how would you describe it?
It kind of varies definitely from like child to child. I think a lot of it has to do with what's going on at home and like how valuable books are treated at home. But throughout the year, we really work on emphasizing that and, you know, building it up. We have like the classroom library, so that's one of the areas that you can go to anytime. It's kind of like quiet and relaxing, but I change books in and out, but there are some, like if you came in our room and saw the dinosaur book, that book is like falling apart, but it's so popular. So they're really understanding that they can get like stories and also information from books. I think everybody is really into books. This project that we're working on, so like I said, we're doing it at the end of the day. We're kind of like all doing it together for now. And then I think after break, we'll move it more to an option in the art center. So it's because we have like the art and writing center, so that is where, you know, people really like to work on their stuff. So that's a project that they can opt for at any time during the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really depends. I think it really depends a lot on like how books are treated at home, or like if books are a special part, I think, of the family relationship.
What age are these kids?
3 and 4, and now they're 5 too.
3 and 4.
Yeah, so I did show you, obviously, I showed you like this one, you know, he's going to kindergarten next year, he's really on top of this, but we do have like I wanted to show you something that you might be able to like understand a little better, because one of the things too that we work on is, you know, if I were to do this book today, it would have the same words and pictures that it would have if I write it to you tomorrow. So that's one of the things about books that is different from like, you know, if they draw a picture, they might say it's one thing one time and one thing another time. So what we practice by sitting in the hot seat is like reading it the same way every time. So even if they're not actually reading the words, they're like remembering that's a story that you put on the paper on purpose. Yeah.
They're also a group who thinks that every time Jimmy Carney
Yes,
comes into the building, he's just here to come read to them.
Oh, that's great.
Because he's been a guest reader one time and now.
Yeah, he read to us last year, so then he was on like a walkthrough this year, and he popped in, and they like, so now if he comes into the building, he does have to stop in and read to us. But that's the guy that he is.
That's great.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Is there any other questions or comments? Great, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Love seeing it in action. That's really great.
If you want to come be a guest reader, we always take it.
Yes, please do come and read in my classroom or in Burley's too, we would love that, yes.
Excellent. All right, do we have any, I don't think we had anything for the board development series, did we?
I had a chart that I developed because I was curious how, when we compared the cost and the performance of our rural states in America.
Okay, great.
And so I don't know if you want to do that at this point or do that as part of our legislative discussion updates.
Well, if you want to go ahead and walk us through this,
I'm not
it is
sure
great
if I got that online or something, but it's a spreadsheet that basically,
this is last page, right?
oh, you got it. Oh, great.
Yeah, it's in
Everybody
it's in
does have
our,
it there.
yeah, it's in our packet, the last
Thank you.
page of the packet.
Basically looking at most rural states in America. And by rural, we're not talking about on space, we're talking about the population per mile. And Vermont's the most rural state by that measure in the country. And the 11th most rural state, Wyoming, is a little more than a half of that. Rural land area, you can see Vermont's almost entirely rural. And then you look at the spending. And this isn't listed by high to low, it's listed, the chart is listed top to bottom by extent, rural, high to low rural population of the top 11. And the final column on the right is the educational performance, the quality performance of, for these 11 states, K through 12. And when you run a correlation analysis, you've got a significant positive correlation between the investment we have in education and the outcome you get from that investment. And you see that Vermont is the second highest of these rural states. New Hampshire being higher than us, but New Hampshire is only 2/3 as rural as we are. And there's, so when you got to be thinking about what does it take to achieve excellence in a rural setting. And one of the conclusions, I think, straightforward, is it possibly costs more per student. The other interesting thing is in the transformational initiative of the governor, they have a benchmark what they're trying to drive costs down to, which is $13,200. That was part of the original plan, and they're going to cut, and by cutting $180, I think, $1 million, they thought they were saving. So their target was $13,200. Well, let's just look what the record is for those states that have an average cost per pupil of $13,200. Well, lo and behold, you've got Alabama. They spend roughly $500 per student. They're ranked 47th in quality. Okay, what about Arkansas? They've got $13,258. They're ranked 42nd. You look at West Virginia, they're spending more money now. They're over $15,000. They're 50th in quality. And so look at Kentucky, 15,000 plus 39th. So money isn't everything, but you have to have the resources, and they have to be well run, well organized. You've got to have a focus. You've got to have talent throughout. Marvel through the whole system. I think RSU is a model for that. But it concerns me, and that's why I wasn't sure how this is going to turn out, that if the governor wants to drive down per cost to $13,200, we've got model states that are doing this, and it's driven their quality. The performance down. And so I don't think that's the model. We want to be efficient and have quality as well. So that's my 2 cents worth. So.
This is wonderful.
Yeah, it all goes back, among other things I've said, we know time to time on school boards and school committees that care, are passionate about it, and really want to assure that the mission that we have is carried out well. That does make a difference in the school boards. And I think we all try to take that seriously and do our job, and that's another one of the strengths we have, I think, in the SU.
It also makes a difference how close the school boards are to their students.
Yes.
I mean, if they're just like parents being far away from schools, their school boards are far away from not a problem. Where it becomes distant. So that,
Yeah.
basically,
Okay, is there any further discussion on, this that Bill provided? Thank you, this is definitely,
Food for thought.
some really good, yeah, but some really good information to really put it into perspective, where we are, where other rural states are, and, the effects that, reducing that spending has had, on our kids. All right, we will skip over 8.2 because for Jamie to return. So 8.3, final preparation for annual meeting and the FY26 budget vote.
So I believe Tara shared out a draft of the mailer. We have already coordinated, like we have the labels ready, I've coordinated, with Rochester Post Office already.
Great.
So those aspects are ready to go. I think we're just looking for any feedback so we can get the mailer to the printer tomorrow so we can
Well,
meet the post office timeline type
so
of deal.
tomorrow is what you're trying to.
That's my understanding. Let me send a message real quick and make sure I'm not.
I'm sure if it's not tomorrow, it's within a short
Right.
time. I understand that. So looking over this, I have it on my computer right now. We need to work on the formatting. Yeah, we need to work on the formatting a little bit because,
Okay.
we really do want each report, you know,
Okay.
to have its own page or, yeah, so.
She included it.
Right, so here's the end of, the minutes from last,
Okay.
and then it goes into the, board of directors report. This really needs to be on its own page.
So minutes from last.
And that just kind of pushes every single report, to go a little bit more than a page, and then it, so I do actually have last year's report, and it just the look of it and of it having, you know, a whole, its own page, you know, rather than half of it starting on one page. You know, reduce font, like, you can see like this one, the font got reduced a little bit just to make sure it would fit on one page and it wouldn't like push over. I did question the, I was looking for the cost that our annual report was last year. It was very nice, but the whole thing was in color, which does increase the cost of it. And I guess I was just wondering, like, how much more is it to do the whole thing? You know, are we talking $1,000? Are we talking $200? You know, what's the difference in, because there is areas that we absolutely want color. There's charts and pie charts that we absolutely want color. You know?
I will say, the thing to remember is when you put this, that's not good because it's the middle, right? But for example,
Good,
if
this
this
page
is in
is-
color, then that makes this page color and this, like, even if it's not something in color behind it, that's what turns it into color.
Right.
So it really, so I know in years past, we've tried to eliminate and only certain things are there, but it may be because of what we took out, what we put down, that there's not a choice based on what is color.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, it's really nice and it looks nice. I just want to be cost effective, you know, I just want to be conscious of what we're paying for. And if it really increases the price, then I would like us to maybe look at it. Again, it could not be, a huge difference. Yes.
The question of color, color brings out one, like a pie chart. It's much easier to read a pie chart.
Right.
It's color coded rather than one that has X's, Y's, Z's, and that sort of thing. So there's a certain thing about that. And also just one's propensity to want to turn the page, and they see something in color like a photograph, it gets their attention, and then hopefully they'll read with what's company that I'll just toss out as a possible suggestion, that if it does look like it's like $1,000 or more, or something like that, that the board consider that one of our endowment funds could pay for the difference and just keep it. I don't think it's enormous, but I'm just saying that's one way where we could.
Well,
And I'm not an expert on communications, but I just know myself that it's color brings out,
okay.
tells the story so well, especially the photographs. But
No, absolutely.
that's a way
Thank
that
you
we
very
could
much,
do
Bill,
both if we could.
for, giving me your opinion on that, or stating your opinion, because that's what we're here to talk about. I was thinking the numbers for this book were about 3,000, and this was, I do have the bill for this one, it was 5,600.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know that I saw that bill because I didn't
So-
send it.
This one was lower.
I don't have, this was lower. I don't have that bill up, and that's what I was hoping Tara would bring it, but,
But I just don't know because of how close we are to doing that we can go through right now and say, this is what, I don't know the answer, because I haven't talked to the printer yet, because we don't have a draft.
okay. We did have some trouble in the past with, when we transferred
That's
the,
why Tara does it,
Okay.
because it's all in the right.
it's in the format that they need, it was, yeah.
It's not trying to take a picture of a.
Right, I just want us to be, these are some things that have popped up in the past, and I just
That's
want to
right.
make sure,
So she put together in the middle of it last year and like Erica did cover.
yeah.
So, and I believe last year's was clearer.
Yeah, last year's was great.
Right, and that's part of the reason we went to that, because it
Well, even the year
is-
before was clear. too.
Yeah, it's her original document, and she could
That's what.
transpose it into the right.
Okay.
Right, yeah, whatever the right.
And are you doing, photos for the,
Photos can cover it in the back.
that, great, and you have the address and
Yeah.
labels, okay? Did anybody else get a chance to look through it and have any?
Suggestions, but I could, looking at your laptop would help me here.
Sure.
Because the first one has to do with section 1 of that first, go all the way up to the top.
To the beginning of like the table of contents?
Just below the table of contents, there.
Page 5, page 4, page 3, page.
Yeah.
Okay, the annual meeting warning, section 2?
Yeah, that was one on, at our last year's meeting, we had a constituent that felt that the word stipend was more reflective of our pay for board members than salary. And so we discussed it, and somebody said, I think it might have been Jamie, that both words mean roughly the same. But then we voted to have it stipend rather than salary.
I
And I
don't
thought,
think you can change it now because it's assigned warning.
what?
I don't know if you can change it now because it's assigned warning.
And that is a very good point, and I think we might be locked in, absolutely.
I
So
think we're in 30 days, so I don't think we can change it.
Yeah, I
I hear
should've-
you,
I should
do
have
remember
thought of
that
that earlier.
conversation. I didn't think of it either. I do remember what you're talking about, Bill. I just don't think,
No,
Yeah,
I was too late on that.
Yeah. Okay.
Slow-mo.
but we'll just keep writing it down.
Yeah. Okay.
So stipend versus salary.
Oh, and, yep, because my other comment was the warning, I think we needed, we talk about that it's going to be at the Rochester campus and Vermont on May 6th, and it would have been great if we said, and the elections will be on
It's at the bottom.
Wednesday. I know it's at the bottom, I just wish it was the top, but that's locked in, so
It
forget
can be
those
on the
comments.
cover that way.
Yeah, and cover.
It can be on the cover that way.
Yeah.
instead.
That's
Well,
great.
the other good thing is that with our meeting, with the voting being the following day, we're going to be able to explain it at our meeting.
That will help.
So that'll be
Big
very
time.
helpful.
Absolutely. We go down to Jamie's report, there is just the weird, Princess, I love everything going, this is pretty minor stuff. see this kind of weird.
Oh, the formatting of it?
You see how sometimes the Google Doc,
The paragraph, and
And you know-
this sentence, it did something here.
so it's no big deal, but it's,
Yeah, I don't know, page down. Nope. Oh, this isn't a line dog.
the,
Nope, okay, so this is not working. Let me take, hold on, I just put in. There. Thank you, I get the, okay. Page down. Page down, page down.
Whose report was it?
It's Jamie's report,
Okay.
and it's the superintendent's report, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. It's like the 8th paragraph, and the sentence starts with federal/state dollars. And it's just that there's only 3,
Yeah.
I mean,
State.
which is,
Check.
yeah, you got it?
Yeah,
These
I got
are, these are trivia. The last one has to do 2 charts about tuition going down further. And this is just formatting it to, I think, help this one.
announced tuition.
Announced tuition secondary, and we have district FY 25, 26 percentage change. And it just, I thought it would tell a story. You got the state average, and then for 2026, I think they should be listed by low to high. So it reinforces that we're the lowest. Then it flips all around. See how they're flipping around?
Oh, yeah.
So that you list the,
There is no,
there's no rhyme or reason for what we have right now.
there's no specific formatting as far as,
So we're the lowest. We're actually lower than the state average. But then they bounce all over the place. Why not list them by
do,
low to high? And that reinforces that we're being competitive. You stay in our SU, you're paying less. And so it also talks about our frugality, that we can do a quality education with a lower cost per student than our competitor schools throughout this
yeah,
Windsor County. So
I think that
it's
would
a small
be.
change, but it reinforces that we also didn't change anything.
Yeah.
So, but what a difference between 19,900, that's us, our SU, and $27,412 in Randolph. I mean, that's just huge. And then we go down to so that's one suggestion. The other one, when we list tuition.
I got it.
This is,
I'll connect with it.
this is the budget, is it,
No, go up again.
is this, that's the common level of appraisal.
Chart 5.4, I'm looking for.
Sure. 5.1, 5.2, 5.3,
We'll do a format.
5.4. Estimated tuition, students and their designated schools for FY 26.
Okay.
It's this one right here, grade 7 to 12, tuition students by school.
Yeah.
And I would think we should list it, again, it's not alphabetical or anything, we should be listed us at the top because most of the tuition students stay within SU.
Okay.
That's 28, and then the next high. So this, instead of low to high, we talk about high to low.
So you reformat the.
Just reformat the order, it still comes down to 77
Yeah, and it's
students.
the grade
Yeah.
one.
But it reinforces the fact that, again, we have a quality education, and one measure for that is the attractiveness of parents wanting to stay within the SU.
Yep.
And the nearest one to that is Middlebury, and we're nipping away at that every year. Lindy, thanks to you and your team, which is the next one, then it goes way down. So that was just my other thing.
Okay.
Oh, and then there are a bunch of blanks in here, but she's gonna fill the pages.
admin kids up in Martin Street.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
the proposed, yeah, so,
Like those were the features they'll go on and children, that form.
yeah, it's that, okay, great.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is those reports at the beginning, formatting.
Yeah, I know, I
so
see what you mean, so
Yeah.
it starts on the right page.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that it's just, like, you fix one, I think the rest of them
And it'll take,
will go.
and probably we won't do it until she drops in those things, so then make sure that.
Absolutely.
All right,
All right, so that is the mailer. Was there additional things, logistics or anything we need to talk about for the annual meeting? It's at 6 o'clock. Are we doing any meal or anything beforehand, or? I mean, I got comments both ways last year. Some people were like, no.
Well, I think in regards to the
Yes.
checklist, it's easier now.
Okay.
Probably. I do think we should have chopped.
Yes.
Just check.
Oh, he's locking. Okay, I don't need to let him in. Okay,
But if the board wanted to do dinner, I mean, I'm going to
Where's the lock?
he's locking.
have Patrick and myself and Lindy have another virtual connection with your two town clerks leading out.
Good.
So I think we could navigate dinner if we need it. I will say in regards to checking people in, it's been in buildings where we've been able to serve a meal like cafeteria.
And then move to another space.
That has made it way easier to check in and do dinner than trying to do dinner and also then check in.
I think that everybody's gonna be excited that we get to do it a little bit earlier this year. And
I mean,
they get in and get out and be
We do
done.
like snacky things in the back, if people just want to check
Oh,
in
that's-
and then go.
We could do that.
That's true, we could
Yeah.
just have.
Maybe, we just provide some finger food
I was gonna
sauce.
say chocolate chip cookies,
Yeah, we could do
and
some
a cup of
cookies,
coffee with
coffee, some
Okay, let's
waters,
go, I would say let's go with that.
Simple.
snacks provided and childcare.
Okay.
And we can highlight that on the mail as well. Does that sound good?
I
I do think it'll make it a little easier, just.
I absolutely agree.
Check in, get your snack, get your spot.
Yeah, I think it's great that you're meeting with the clerk. It's great.
All right,
Otherwise, no, we'll start working on the presentation. I think we've got a good outline for that.
absolutely.
I think that we just need to be prepared at that annual meeting. I do think there'll be a lot of questions under other and the reports to the board, possibly just under 8.2, what our legislature's doing. I think we just be prepared to address that information of what we have in real time then.
Right, probably just put that as part of the presentation.
Yeah.
Wherever we are, wherever the state is at that point, okay.
And I think that's quite honestly a positive sign. They're interested. Why are they interested? Usually you're interested because you're concerned. And so you need answers. And then the second thing is, what can we do about it? So that's a great opportunity for you to explain and then suggest what we might be able to do together.
All right, and so the meeting starts at 6. Everybody on the board should arrive at the latest 5:45 probably, not earlier. Okay. Thank you.
You meet again before we vote, right?
We
Like
need-
the way May,
The night before.
the way May works. This year.
Great, on Cinco de Mayo. Yeah, it's my mom.
Bring your sombreros.
You what?
Bring your sombreros.
Sombreros. I was thinking margaritas, but.
I mean, unless you want to wait and hold your May meeting after and read one. That's up to you guys. We could do it the following Monday.
The 12th.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? I mean,
I like that.
I mean, we'd have
yeah, I
a
want
full board hopefully maybe by then.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. Okay, so, May
So we'll move this meeting to May 12th.
at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be our reorg.
And that, yeah, we can reorg, talk about the meeting. Otherwise, we don't meet until June.
Right, then we only have one meeting.
Do you know what I'm
I
saying?
know, I like that
Does
better.
that work?
That works actually a lot better.
And
because
you'll have your report.
We'll have the report from the desk in June, so then we can concentrate on that in June. And yeah, I like that a lot.
So I would be here.
The May 12th would be
Yeah,
6 o'clock in Rochester. We alternate the regular meetings.
Oh, the regular.
And then we alternate the annual meetings, and they're on two, their
So
own
in Rochester,
locations.
It's Rochester.
Is it perfect? Yeah. Okay.
I think that would be good.
Anything else about the annual meeting or the, and the budget vote?
Tara, I have notes I'll share with you.
Great, well then let's move on, which is actually moving back to 8.2, the legislative updates.
So, I'll start with, I guess, the first thing to know is that House Ways and Means is working on a foundation formula. They've indicated that that bill would be tied with governance changes that would come out of at the education committees, okay? They're still at a place where they're still trying to discuss like, well, the weights of the pupils being things, so it's hard for me to tell you where that funding mechanism that they're looking at may align to revenue versus what we currently have in regards to coming out to us out of the end fund, right, which is our Act 68 spending.
So they're just looking at the formula.
They're looking at
They're
the
just sort of
formula.
like-
House Ways and Means is
Okay.
moving to a foundation formula, which would really be more like a block grant that happened with special education 5 years ago, which for us resulted in actually increased revenue. Yeah, I'm not certain that a foundation formula is gonna choke us from resources of being able to keep our schools open. Because we are not in the top half of the spending in the state, right?
Right.
Just because we're smaller doesn't mean that we spend more. And so, and they're also taking into things like looking at, just like they do under Act 127 now, looking at the rural nature of districts, they're still looking at free reduced lunch, like the House Ways and Means is looking at those indicators in regards to supporting that foundation.
Okay, that's good.
amount. So that's good. I'm not in a place yet to be able to really speak to you in regards to what that may mean. I mean, I do know that the Alliance in regards to testimony does support the foundation formula mechanism for funding, but thinks that you want to really, they need to take the time to analyze what a district's currently spending and why, and use that as the base to work off of districts. So stay tuned in regards to that funding mechanism. The House was supposed to vote today on the House Ed bill, possibly with some amendments included that would require local engagement of communities prior to a school being closed. I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah.
We did work hard to get rid of the language that was introduced last week that would have gave unilateral authority for districts, boards to close schools.
Right.
Even with articles of agreement in place. And so that was removed from that legislation. I don't know if those amendments were successful or not today.
Okay.
Your words.
Tomorrow, I'll be testifying, like I said, in Senate Ed. You know, the ask there, I think, is to not get too far out in front of ourselves, that we're trying to draw maps and make decisions in the next 2 months.
Yeah.
Which Senate Ed thinks they can. At least the chair of Senate Ed has indicated. That's worrisome.
Yeah, that's
Who's the chair?
Baumgart's.
That's
Senator
making decisions
Baumgart's.
without looking at full data and really.
So there's really, what I've seen the whole time is there's pieces of the Senate bill that I like, that I think supports us in the work we do, meaning supervisory unions is a structural reason. They're not looking at providing any minimums for class sizes. They indicate they don't want to do that. So there's two pieces that are good, where House had said we ought to study this and come up with 3 different proposals in regards to governance maps, right, over the next year, and have a committee do that. That's of retired educational leaders, and that language I think is good. I wish they would have included supervisory unions explicitly as a means of an organizational structure. They didn't. So that's problematic. But I think, you know, the goal would be is that we could get pieces of House and pieces of the Senate together, I actually think there could be a bill that could result in better efficiency over time, result in better outcomes for kids. Like, I do think there's a possibility here, if they work together, to create a bill. The issue that we have is that the governor signaled last week that without a governance change and a change in education funding formula by this session, he essentially said, I'm not gonna let you recess, and the way he would he be vetoing the budget. So what, Jamie, what does this mean? I mean, I think what it means is if he stays true to that, it's where is the leadership on the House and the Senate gonna be in regards to having what I actually see as the will to not then feel that they just need to create a fast bill.
Right.
Which I think is problematic. We've seen it, right? We saw it in Act 127. The data just wasn't there to support the bill. You know, it was all done in good intentions, but it resulted in what we got was increased spending last year because of that cap, that they then removed to help fix it, but it created the rhetoric around spending's out of control, and we have a major tax problem. You know, and in my testimony tomorrow, I'm going to give an example of, you know, voluntary merger is, I think, incredibly important. And we have an example in your district, if you look at spending over time, you take the CLA out, really, like, we're doing very well.
Yeah.
We have a White River Unified District, if I even include the CLA, where their taxes are still lower 5 years later.
Mhm.
Yeah.
These are not mega districts doing this work, right? But they were voluntary mergers. There's visioning around how to better increase opportunities for kids. Like, and then we have examples of much larger districts in the state that are spending more. So this idea that the optimum size is 4,000, if you look at the research around forced mergers of 4,000, you know, students, 4,000 size districts, you don't see efficiency.
You don't see it.
I think that's one thing people should be able to look at is the data cost per student of the forced mergers, larger forced mergers and the voluntary mergers, and see if there's any correlation. And I agree with you, I'm not sure there is one. And then you want to go further than that, look at quality. So I think that's, yeah, maybe legislature and the leadership has got to keep their heads here. We've got a lot of well-meaning people, but we can't screw it up, and rushing it too much without is too bad. And the other thing that bothers me is you looked at the AOE report on transformational change, and they look at the average size administrative staff that you have to have for running a district, that sort of thing. And they assumed no change whatsoever in just the change process. How do you manage change without more resources? And then if you're doing, on top of that, people are not exactly clear about what we're doing and why we're doing it and how do you build a new team? All those questions take, if you're serious, you've got to put some resources behind that to make sure that those organizational changes work and there's buy-in. And it's very hard for me to think that there's going to be buy-in by the people that actually deliver the direct educational services. That's our teachers. When they look at the back of their minds is that where do they think that $180 million is going to come from? They want to cut that, you know. We're hearing that in other sectors in the government. So, no, I think cool heads and articulating good questions and giving them information is very helpful. We're all very proud of you doing that, representing us at the larger level. I think in many ways we are making a difference there.
The one thing I wanted to mention, I mean, I am concerned in regards to the House class sizes for a few of our schools in the SU. Newton being one and Stockbridge being another. Even if you look at them allowing us to do multi-age for 2 grades, we would struggle in both of those schools. So that class size thing is something we just need to, as a Rochester-Stockbridge board, if that seems to be looking like it's going to stick in Senate, that is something we explicitly need to reach out to our constituents with in regards to advocating against. I will let you know that Representative White reached out to me about my concerns with it, and I was clear to him about there are schools in the SU that will struggle mightily to be viable in regards to those class size. Yes,
And that's what part of the house is.
that's in the House bill.
Okay. Is there any further questions or comments for Jamie?
And thank you for keeping us informed. Just, we sometimes don't have the time to read everything, but we have the opportunity to read a lot and get educated, and that's something that's moved.
I think families appreciated your outreach being from the board. I've had several family members, the parents, send me copies of emails they sent to representatives. So they appreciated having the information to understand. So if there's more of that to come, I think that's helpful. They're a pretty motivated group.
Yeah, no, that's great.
I continue to reach out to their representatives.
I just was having a hard time figuring out how to get it out there because I don't have, yeah.
You can email it out to parents.
Perfect.
And their stakeholders.
Okay,
So
that is great, yeah.
please keep it coming.
Well, what would be everything you send us into the PTOs and
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to just, make it easier for everybody.
send it to the,
And have it be like accurate, so it doesn't change it.
Well, that's the,
Right, the time.
that's the problem, is timing of it, but again, just to be made aware and updated. Okay. Do we have to officially appoint,
No, you can do it by consensus.
Great. And do we have any new hires or resignations?
I have a retirement to announce. Steph Colton will be retiring at the end of the school year.
Okay. Thank you for all the work.
25 years.
45 years, wow. Much appreciated.
Greatly appreciated.
Wow, thank you very much.
We'll certainly be throwing this in celebration.
Good,
Yes, there's several
big,
between her and
big.
Kay.
right.
There's
Oh,
quite a few
good.
retirements.
Retiring,
So,
well, we should definitely celebrate, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's move on to public comment.
Is that me?
That's
Yes.
cool.
So really, I'm here to actually plug into the conversation just happened about
Yeah.
communicating with the larger community about the issues in as clear and severe a way as possible. Jamie gave a great presentation to the House Education Committee. It was really good. I think I don't know, I think it's clear that the attempt by that committee to insert language to avoid the merger agreements so they could close schools, that was removed largely, in my understanding, because of public pressure generated by the Alliance.
Yeah.
That's grassroots power. The Alliance is trying to operate at 2 levels, as you know. In the State House, they have a lobbyist, and they are trying to get grassroots efforts going. They're planning, I think, to start releasing like regular information packets like every week, because it's so complicated. You know, that bill was 51 pages long, Anyway, I have 2 really important thoughts about this. One is that it is the natural tendency of school boards in town, that the school board and the schools and the parents, they're one information envelope. All the retired people and all the other people don't have kids, but they're another one. And it's vital that a proactive effort be made on the part of the school part of it, to be part of the communication node, to get the word out that this is existential. If they close your school, they're closing your town. I mean, the tendency here, and I say this with love and respect, is to speak in low tones and educational terms. And God bless him for it. You know, Jamie's not an activist. His hair is not on fire, and he can't actually be an activist. That's not his job. The Alliance are activists, but I think there should be a sense of urgency about this, complicated as it is. It's really hard to explain a lot of it. You know, there's the governor's plan, the Senate's plan, the House plan, there's all these different power centers and organizations, it's very complicated. But the bottom line is if they close your school, they close your town. And, I mean, which is how I look at it. And we remember, Amy, from the merger time, from Act 46, I mean, we were a leaf in the gale under the forces of the state. And that was an awful experience.
Yeah.
The fact that the Alliance exists now to represent the interests of these small towns is really important. But all that stuff should connect with communications. Does the SU have a communications director?
We have some coordinators and like a part.
Because, I mean, a corporation would have one. And they would say to that person, the train is coming down the track towards us. We got to put a system together that regularly lets people know what's going on. The reason during political season you saw 5,000 ads of the same guy is because repetition is really important in advertising.
Right.
And you know, you made a nice post linking the Alliance's website. But that means that people have to link the website. Then once you get to the website, there's like 3 clicks involved in getting there. Well, they're not going to do that. So anything and I think this is something you guys need to think about or talk to the Alliance about or something, but every place that has a school board, that has people that are willing to come down here and sit here, they can be a node to the community of information. And the more alarming, the better. I mean, soft tones and educational language. I kept telling this Margaret McLean with the Alliance that there is this tendency in Vermont to kind of be polite and kind of keep it on, you know, be understated. And it's time to bring urgency to it. I'm begging you, basically. I'm begging you to give this some thought, put it in your agenda someplace. Don't be shy about this because, you know, when you start, I've had a couple of posts that I've made on Front Porch Forum, just taking stuff from the Alliance. I've got all kinds of people thanking me for that. I didn't know that was going on, thanking me for that. They don't know, you know, they don't know, and they need to be told. And the school is so important for the town, not just socially, or not just because the kids are important, but because it directly relates to the survival of the town, to the property values, to the vitality of the town, to the life of the town. Absolutely vital.
So from your point of view, where you sit as a community member, what is the best method to get information to you, do you feel?
Oh, if I were you, if I had ultimate power, if I was Donald Trump, only kidding. I would say, make a plan, assign somebody a plan that once a week or every 2 weeks or something, you put a little package, 1 paragraph, something small that says, here's the progress, or here's what we're worried about. Simple, not with edge-of-speak, not with acronyms, something simple. And do it regularly so people count on it. And I think that's just kind of what the Alliance is going to do.
Where
Oh,
would
and
you
then put
see
it everywhere you can. Put it on Front Porch Forum, on
Okay.
Facebook, if you have a Facebook thing, put it on a little piece of paper and put it at Skip Mart and at the grocery store. And, you know, anything you can do to multiply and tell and give emails to friends and say, hey, anybody that's, you know,
in Stockbridge? We don't have
and the more
much-
people you involve with that, but it has to be an effort. It has to be a job of work.
Right.
It requires focus. And I really feel, I really admire Jamie's presentation to the committee, but he was very politic and quiet and reasonable and used their language. And that was great because that's the venue he was in. But ordinary people are ordinary people. They don't have large attention spans, they don't have patience, they're not real curious. They're just trying to live their lives day to day. So anything you can do repeatedly to just remind them that their town is in danger. You know, and I know it wouldn't be politic for school people to say your town is in danger. The evil people are going, but whatever, in a legitimate, simple way, can get this message out there. I just think that's tremendously important.
No, I definitely agree, and the communication is very important, and to be able to keep it simple, to the point, and it's ever changing, which makes
Yeah,
overnight things
it's
change,
really hard.
as we know, which makes
It's very
it hard,
hard.
which is this world that we live in with the state government, we've seen this before with what they're trying to, the different acts that they do
Yeah.
and stuff. So, I do agree, and I think we can work towards getting some more out to the public. Absolutely.
And get the public to help you if they can. I mean, the more you reach outside of your community into that community, and of course, you're all really in that community. It's not like you don't exist in the community. You live there too. But there is this, and it was true during merger times, it was hard to get people outside of that little bubble that we were in to understand how difficult that was at that time. So that's the end of my fabulous presentation.
Well, thank you.
I did have a question though. The question is there a simple one sentence description of the mission of the Community Engagement Task Force?
It's all written on the bottom of the Community Engagement Task Force agenda every week. Pull that up.
Basically to collect information from the community for strategic planning and visioning for our district.
That's good.
So if I were 5 years old, how would you send it?
What do you want to see your schools look like in the future?
Well, there you go. Okay. Although that assumes that people care about what their future looks like with schools. So,
Well, I guess that's
And
what
that
we'll
goes
see.
to whether you fill it out or whether you don't, I guess.
Excellent.
all right, that's all I
Thank you
have to say.
very
Thank you, and thank you, Jamie, for doing a tremendous job. You were great, and I'm sure you'd be great at the Senate.
Thanks.
Excellent, thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, hearing none.
So we would go into executive session. The motion would be to go into executive session for a student matter with Principal Stats and myself, and Heather Forney is here as well.
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved in second, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Excellent.
So Calvin, you,
Excellent. The board has come out of executive session with no action taken, but the board wants to direct the administration to work with the family further to help address their concern. And I look for a motion to enter executive session for labor negotiations.
That's right. Did you, no, yes, so moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Sorry, we're gonna do another executive session.
Okay.
Great. We've returned to public session with no action taken. Our next meeting date is Monday, May 12th at 6 p.m. at the Rochester campus. Is there any future agenda items that you would like to put on now? If you think of any during the month, please let me or Jamie know.
You have reorg, and I'm sure we'll be talking legislative updates
Absolutely.
as one of the holdings.
Absolutely. All right, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, JC. Good night, Patrick.